NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, a quick peek at the many Capitol Hill things happening in our weekly chat with Congressman Jim McGovern.
Did something happen this week? Wait, did something else happen this week?
Perhaps. Quizás.
We'll also discover a head chef and an American dream with Maritza, Amaya-Branche, and Martin Amaya of Alina's and Hadley, and discover how an injury and a trip to meet family has turned into a 30-plus year career.
But right now, we have live music Thursday, and live musicians in the studio. Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto are a Colombian traditional folkloric cumbia group formed in the Caribbean region of Colombia, which have been active since 1940. Their folkloric music preserves the traditional rhythms and sounds, a product and a mixture of the Colombian indigenous Spanish and Afro-Colombian heritage.
Gaiteros meaning those who play the gaita flute, and San Jacinto for the town the group originated from, San Jacinto in the Colombian department of Bolivar. In November 9th, on 2007, the group won a Latin Grammy Award in the category of folkloric music for their album Un Fuego de Sangre Pura, Las Gaiteros de San Jacinto from Colombia, a fire of pure blood released on Smithsonian Folkways Recordings.
Secret Planet, the 413-based underground global music curators, present Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto tonight at the Marigold Theater,
starting their second season,
in Easthampton, with DJ Bongo Head and Slow Pony starting the night off. Playing for us live now in the studio, all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 musicians. Welcome to the Fabulous 413, Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto.
Bienvenidos.
Gracias.
Orgullo me da, abracémonos hermanos, ya dejemos de pelear, con eso nada ganamos, vamos a vivir en paz, si todos somos hermanos, gocemos la libertad. Qué bella es la vida, cantando y bailando, qué bella es la vida, cantando y bailando, vamos a gozar la vida como buenos colombianos, vamos a gozar la vida como buenos colombianos. ¡Ay, no más! ¡Esa es Colombia! Cuando yo le canto a mi patria linda, me siento más colombiano, bella es mi patria querida, soy San Jacintero, yo me siento así, adoro a mi pueblo, donde yo nací, con mochila, barca y sombrero, me siento feliz, con mochila, barca y sombrero, me siento feliz. Ya no más heridas, vivamos en paz. Ya no más heridas, vivamos en paz y demos un viva a la libertad. Y demos un viva a la libertad. Soy buen campesino, me gusta sembrar para mi mujer y mis hijos, para el pueblo y la ciudad. Cuando estoy cultivando, me siento esperanzado, y a mi Dios rogando que bendiga mi sembrado. Me ha tocado llorar, la vida es así. Me ha tocado llorar, la vida es así. A veces me quiero marchar, pero qué lindo es mi país. Bella es Colombia, reine la paz. Viva mi suelo, donde nací.
Los
so good.
Gaiteros de San Jacinto playing at the Marigold Theater in Easthampton tonight. A love letter to Colombia and where you're from and your culture in that song right there. And the band doesn't speak all that much English.
Esta persona aquí está tocando tres cosas. Estás cantando. He's singing and playing a flute, the gaita, and maracas at the same time during
While
that song.
filming us.
Yeah.
So he's also
it's
playing
insane.
the iPhone right now. The gaita is that flute that they're playing over there. Are you their tour manager?
Yes, and the tour manager and music producer of the group.
Javier Muti is going to do a little translating.
You produce the music too. Are there
The last album, yes.
last album?
I was the producer of the last album. Yeah.
are there more? Sorry, now I have to I'm thinking of questions in Spanish in my head, and now I have to translate back into English for me and our listeners. But are there other albums of theirs in Colombia that haven't been brought here? Their first album comes out in 2007 through Smithsonian, and there's two since then. But are there more back in your home country?
Yeah. There are much more from their parents and their grandparents. But we could say that from this new generation that is not that new, because the Latin Grammy album was recorded by Rafael, who is our singer now, but also by Gabriel, Adolfo, but also for some master that already passed away. One of those just passed away 2 months ago, by the age of 92 years
Wow.
old. Also Juan Chuchita by 90-something, Nico by 80-something. So and those guys were recording also. So these guys were lucky to get that link directly from there and to be touring also in the States, because that album was recorded on the States. We made tours in the States in 2012 with all of them. So yeah, but before that are like, I could say 10 albums more, very successful. All that repertory, it's performed by them too. Not only the new music, but also all those classics.
Wonderful.
In what year is did the oldest member join this group that started in the 40s? Is it Rafael?
The group that started in the 40s, no one is here, but Rafael is the oldest in our band, and Rafael is 73.
And what year did you join the band, Rafael?
¿Hace cuánto te uniste a la banda?
Bueno, de estar en la gaita por ahí unos 35 años.
It's been on the
35
gaita music 35 years.
That's a long time. Well, I want to make sure we hear another song before we run out of time. So
Sure.
Let's hear another one from Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto, playing with DJ Bongo Head and Slow Pony at the Marigold Theater in Easthampton tonight.
Tonight.
Thank you.
¡Ahí va! Desde antes de yo nacer, sabía que era cumbiambero. Desde antes de yo nacer, sabía que era cumbiambero. Y lo digo porque lo sé. Así nací, así me crié. Siempre representaré. Siempre representaré a mi pueblo San Jacinto. ¡Uva! Ya comienza el festival y esta sí es Este muchacho, somos gaiteros oficiales, de Jacinto. Desde antes de yo nacer, sabía que era cumbiambero. Desde antes de yo nacer, sabía que era cumbiambero. Y lo digo porque lo sé. Así nací, así me crié. Siempre representaré a mi voz por San Jacinto. Siempre representaré a mi voz por San Jacinto. Y es que lo representamos todas partes del mundo con orgullo. Ay, Wilson Montamo. ¡Uva!
Oh, so good.
Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto. So incredible. Playing these incredible animal skin drums and these long flutes that are called the gaita that look like canes. I wouldn't believe that they would make such incredible music, but they do.
And matching outfits.
And they're going to be playing. Yeah, they have matching outfits with their band on the back of them. They're so cool.
So cool.
The T-shirts. Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto playing at the Marigold Theater in Easthampton tonight with DJ Bongo Head and Slow Pony. Thank you all so much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, guys. You're awesome. Look.
On the way, building a culinary institution in Hadley with the couple behind the restaurant Alina's.
And digging into the many turning gears of Congress with Representative Jim McGovern next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com.
Time for our weekly check-in with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, Worcester's own Congressman Jim McGovern. And Worcester has a medaled Olympian that we will talk about, I think, a little bit later. In recent weeks, Congressman, we've started this conversation learning that the Republican Party was mad at you and sanctioning you and keeping you from talking on the floor of the House. This week, in McGoverning with McGovern, the entire nation of China is mad at you. This comes from Reuters. China has imposed sanctions on U.S. lawmaker Jim McGovern on the grounds of interference in the country's affairs, freezing assets and barring him from conducting transactions in China. Your family has also been sanctioned in China, not allowed to travel there. The ministry says that in recent years, you, Congressman, frequently engaged in words and deeds that interfere in China's internal affairs and undermine China's sovereignty, security, and development interests. We know from a couple weeks ago that you were in India, I believe, with the Dalai Lama, talking about China's influence in Tibet. There's been legislation that you've introduced that has passed in response to the U.S.'s relationship with Tibet and China. Tell us about the sanctions against you. Is this something that happens frequently? An entire nation will sanction a U.S. congressman?
No, I feel kind of honored by this in many respects, because what they're sanctioning me for is basically telling the truth about their lousy human rights record. The attack on the Uyghurs in Xinjiang is the human rights conditions are atrocious. Their attack on pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, the world knows all about this, and it is horrible. And their mistreatment of the Tibetans, they're engaged in ethnic cleansing, trying to erase their culture, their religion. When I was in India, I met with countless Tibetans who were in exile because they feared for their lives. They feared they'd be jailed just for practicing their religion and being who they are. So, look, if China wants me to back off, then maybe start improving your human rights record. It's that simple. But I co-chair the Human Rights Commission. I care about human rights. I think the United States needs to make human rights more a centerpiece of our foreign policy. And so, look, I'm not going to be quiet.
Were you the only congressperson that was sanctioned by China, or was just for some reason the Reuters story just focusing on you?
Yeah, no, I mean, this announcement came out of the blue, so I was the only one. Maybe there'll be others that they'll add to the list in the coming weeks. But when I was in Dharamsala, I also gave a speech, which I'm sure the Chinese government had somebody there listening to it, but which was pretty harsh, but also said that, look, I want a constructive and a productive relationship with China in the future. I'm not about making enemies. I'm trying to figure out ways to build bridges so that we can actually have better relations. But part of having better relations is for China to understand that it can't mistreat its own people. It is that simple. And I think there are countless people living in China who are hoping that people in the United States and people all around the world will not forget about them and will raise their issues publicly in hopes that the Chinese government will change its position. And I hope that they will. I think it would be in China's interest to engage in a dialogue with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government in exile. I mean, I really do. And I think it would be in China's interest to stop their forced labor camps of Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and to be more tolerant of the diversity of opinions that exist in Hong Kong. But they're paranoid, and so they continue to crack down on people. But I think in the long run, that undercuts their security. So it's not me threatening anybody's security. I'm simply giving voice to people who are being persecuted. And I think that that's my job. That's what I should be doing.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern, the big news story from yesterday was the former president's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists, where, amongst other things, the former president questioned whether Vice President Harris, quote, happened to turn black, saying that all of a sudden she made a turn in her identity. Fox News reporter Jessica Tarlov's reaction to the Q&A was, quote, it was a complete, absolute dumpster fire for the former president. Republican strategist Scott Jennings said on CNN about Trump's appearance at the NABJ, he did crap the bed today. The only question is whether he's going to roll around in it or get up and change the sheets. Your thoughts on the former president's appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday?
I thought it was both shocking and embarrassing and racist and bigoted. And I think Trump thinks that this plays to his advantage. This plays to his base. I don't think he was off script. This is what he does. He tries to divide people and polarize the nation. I mean, to question whether or not Vice President Kamala Harris is black, I mean, she went to a historically black college. I mean, she's always identified as being black.
And Indian, which is the question. She's...
And Indian as well. But the idea that she's not black, that she somehow turned black, that this white man can decide for her or anybody else their identity is really something we haven't seen at this level in the past. And this is who he is. But I think he thinks that this helps him somehow in his own twisted view of this country. I think he thinks this is not a disaster, contrary to what the reporters you mentioned said. And they are doubling down on it. I mean, his campaign issued a statement saying those people who are making a big deal about this are deranged. The idea that this is somebody who could be our president again, this is a guy who does not represent my values or the values of the people that I represent in any way, shape, or form. This man should not be anywhere near, never mind the presidency, but any office or any position of responsibility. It was cringy. I don't know what else to say about it.
Meanwhile, the vice president was in Western Massachusetts over the weekend in Pittsfield, where she held a fundraiser, and James Taylor played at it and more. I know that a lot of the Beacon Hill delegation from Western Mass was there to greet the vice president at Westover. Were you in the area when Vice President Harris was here over the weekend?
I was invited, but I had events in Leominster and in Princeton, and I thought that my presence wasn't needed there to be a big hit, so I kept my previously scheduled obligations. But
you let Yo-Yo Ma play the cello at the event instead of you just trying to jam with everybody up there.
Absolutely, right. But I, for everything I heard, it was a wonderful, wonderful event, and again, I'm really excited about her. I mean, I think I'm inspired by the enthusiasm her candidacy has generated. She seems relaxed. She seems ready for the job, and I think she will make a great president, and a president that we all can be proud of, who can represent the values of this country and highlight the best of this country, and not focus in on issues that are polarizing and divisive.
Any word on when and who the VP will choose as VP?
Well, I think we're told it's going to be, we know they schedule something next week. I don't know who it's going to be, but all the candidates that have been named, I think, are all able and candidates who will do a good job. I mean, my sentimental favorite is Tim Walz, who's the governor of Minnesota. I served with him in Congress for a while, and I know him and his wife and his kids, and he's a thoroughly decent guy, and I think he'd be great. I'm anxious to hear who it's going to be because I'm anxious for this campaign to get in full swing. I have to tell you though, I don't know about you, but I really kind of like this shorter campaign.
That's very British of us.
Yeah, well, no, but maybe they know something we don't know. I mean, the idea that presidential campaigns in this country begin in earnest the day after somebody's elected president, I'm not sure is very healthy for our politics and for getting stuff done. So maybe we could all learn something from this moment.
Yeah, it's not like our attention spans have gotten longer as Americans over the years, but these campaigns just go on interminably. So yeah, I think there's some there that we're talking about. Meanwhile, there's another guy who's still president of the United States currently, President Joe Biden, who wrote an opinion piece in the Washington Post and has been speaking publicly about proposed changes to the Supreme Court. Now, shameless plug, Monday on the show, we're going to have Haydenville author David Daly on, who has a new book called Anti-Democratic about the long game that he believes the Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society have been playing to gain control of the Supreme Court. But President Biden's ideas would, in reforms of the court, include things like limiting terms for justices, a code of ethics, a constitutional amendment aimed to counter the Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity. What is your thoughts on these proposed changes, and what's the likelihood that anything would ever happen like this?
Well, I think President Biden's right raising these issues. I mean, the Supreme Court that we have right now is not the Supreme Court we learned about in our civics class, right? I mean, this is a highly politicized court, and it is a court that I think has been corrupted. I mean, the idea that a justice on the bench can receive millions of dollars in gifts from somebody who may have interest in some of the decisions that are being made on the court, I think is ridiculous. And shame on the Chief Justice Roberts for not enforcing some sort of code of conduct. So if he's not going to do it, there ought to be one. Now, the likelihood of things getting passed before the end of the year is difficult. You need a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, and we have a Republican House. But nonetheless, these are important issues, and the Supreme Court needs to work for all people. And we need to have people on the court who are not politicos or people who have partisan and polarizing agendas, but people who will interpret the Constitution, and that ought to be the priority. So, in any event, I support what he's trying to do, and I'm even on a resolution that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez introduced to impeach Alito and Thomas. I mean, I think they've shown who they are. They don't belong on any, never mind the Supreme Court, on any court.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, we got a listener question from Jennifer Scarlett in Northampton. She says, many people have responded with rapture to the news that Kamala Harris has been anointed as the Democratic nominee. However, your constituents who are engaged in the struggle for Palestinian liberation are deeply disturbed by her candidacy. Hours after Netanyahu's despicable speech to Congress, Harris issued a statement condemning anti-genocide protesters and equating anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Later that day, she spoke to the press about her brief meeting with Netanyahu in which she claimed to have told him the so-called war in Gaza must end, but she failed to describe any actual demands or policy changes. No. In the hours after Netanyahu returned to Tel Aviv, Israel struck Syria, Lebanon, and Iran. Clearly, Netanyahu received some form of green light for these actions in Washington. The uncommitted movement that effectively mobilized Democratic primary voters to vote uncommitted to protest U.S. complicity in the genocide in Gaza has now launched the Not Another Bomb campaign, demanding that Harris announce immediately that she'd impose an arms embargo. They would like to know if you will pressure Vice President Kamala Harris to cease U.S. complicity in Israeli genocide and occupation. And once again, that is a listener email from Jennifer Scarlett in Northampton.
Well, a couple of things. One is, I'm somebody who has voted to not send any more arms to Netanyahu. Having said that, I do not believe that Netanyahu got the green light from Biden or anybody in Washington to do what he has been doing. The other thing is that the protests that she condemned were people who were burning the American flag in front of Union Station. And again, with all due respect to those who are protesting, a protest to me should be about raising legitimate issues and trying to build a movement. I think when you burn the American flag in front of Union Station, I don't think you win very many new converts.
However, it's legal. It is protected speech under the First Amendment.
It is, and people can praise that or condemn that. That's protected speech, too. I just don't think it's effective protest, quite frankly, if we're trying to change things. The other thing is she has said that she wants a ceasefire. Well, that is certainly a far cry from what the former president is saying, which is basically, I'm going to give Netanyahu whatever he wants. So I appreciate that she's not where everybody wants her to be on this stuff, but I think her instincts are to try to de-escalate the tensions going on in the Middle East. I think her instincts are to not see this war expand into Lebanon and Iran. And I know that Secretary of State Blinken is working toward that end. And again, it's not everything that those of us who want this to end right now are demanding. But the bottom line is we have two choices here. I shudder to think what would happen if Donald Trump were elected president. Does anybody think that he will try to de-escalate the crisis in the Middle East? I just don't believe that. So we should continue to press Biden-Harris to move more quickly toward a ceasefire, getting hostages released, getting humanitarian aid and medical supplies into Gaza. We ought to be figuring out a process to get a long-term solution to the situation so that Israelis can live in security and Palestinians can live in security and dignity, and they can determine their own future. That is the goal we ought to be moving in. I appreciate, that Kamala Harris is not everything people want her to be at this moment, but she's a hell of a lot better than what the alternative will be.
Before I let you go, Congressman, as I began this conversation, you have a medaled Olympian from your hometown, Worcester, Massachusetts, Steven Nedorosik, the routine that clinched first Olympic medal in the men's team final since 2008 on the pommel horse. It was an inspiring routine to watch in the qualifying round and in the one that actually pushed the team into the medal category, and the joy and celebration on the team's face, not to mention the fact that Steven seems like the coolest nerd of all time from, he's like a coding major or something like that at Pennsylvania State and, playing with Rubik's Cubes on the sidelines once in a while. Do you have a relationship with the Nedorosik family since they are from your hometown?
No, I don't. I'm not sure that his family still lives in Worcester, but given the fact that he's from Worcester, I take credit for all of his incredible talent at the Olympics.
I can't wait to see you on the pommel horse, Congressman McGovern.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I can lift myself up onto that. But anyway, no, I look at it.
I would pay so much money to watch that in the Olympics, Congressman. For you to try to get up there right after him, that would be the best.
I think the sport that I could probably maybe excel in is luging. I could lay down and you can push me, but the point of the matter is, to watch Steven, to watch all of these athletes is just incredibly inspiring, and it's wonderful. And the Olympics bring everybody together at a time when the politics of this nation are very divided. The politics of the world are incredibly divided. And, I look forward to welcoming him back. I've been promoting him on social media, but I know his parents are proud. I know Massachusetts. I know the city of Worcester. I know everybody here is incredibly proud. Everybody's talking about it. So he's really captured the imagination of not just people in the United States, but people in the world.
U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern joins us every Thursday. You can ask your questions through me for the Congressman at thefab413@nepm.org. Or if you live in Greenfield, Deerfield, Gale, Montague, Shelburne, Coleraine, Leiden, or Bernardston, you can go have coffee with the Congressman this coming Wednesday, August 7th at the Greenfield Public Library. Coffee with the Congressman. You can ask the Congressman all your questions to his face. And please, Congressman, no Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I know you love Dunkin' in Greenfield. Greenfield is home of the Pierce Brothers and Fogbuster coffee. For the love of God and all things caffeinated, please drink that coffee on that day at least.
All right. Your request, we'll make sure we don't have Dunkin'. We'll have that. All right.
All right. Thanks as always,
anyway,
Congressman.
but to those who, please come. I do these all over the district, but it's an opportunity for me to hear firsthand from my constituents and what's on your mind, what you like, what you don't like. I always look forward to these meetings, and they're always very, very insightful and interesting. But thank you.
Thanks as always, Congressman.
All the best.
Yeah, shout out to the local coffee. Up next, a delicious tale of immigration, perseverance, and community all coming together as we chat with Maritza Amaya-Branche and Martin Amaya of Alina's restaurant in Hadley.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping customers make the switch to solar for savings, energy security, and tax incentives. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Time for another local hero spotlight. We are in the currently empty and quiet dining room at Alina's on Route 9 in Hadley. Yeah, but I'm sure that this place will be all abuzz shortly. There's a gorgeous grand piano in here. All the play settings are set out, and we are here with the owners and operators of Alina's, Martin Amaya and Maritza Amaya-Branche. This used to be, when I moved to the Valley, a restaurant that Khalees and I were trying to remember the name of, but we couldn't until we got here, Carmelina's, which was a very reputable Italian restaurant. But the story of you, Martin, and you, Maritza, coming into owning this restaurant is an interesting one. Tell us how you got involved with Alina's.
Well, I used to work for Carmelina's. I don't know if you guys remember that. Probably you guys too young for that.
No, I remember.
No, I remember.
Carmelina's had a reputation of being a restaurant that was like the restaurant in The Bear. Let's put it that way.
Chefs, table, 38, 2 people.
Yeah, so I used to work for Carmelina's since 1994. In 2007, Damiano left to go to Boston. A new owner came, kept the name, and I worked for him for 2 years. And then I decided it was time for us to go and do something on our own. So we went to South Deerfield and we opened Alina's in 2010.
But how did you get back here to Carmelina's, which is now Alina's?
We were in South Deerfield for 2 years and a half, and then Carmelina's owner, David Wendolowski, came to South Deerfield and asked us if we want to buy it. And then we came back to Hadley. And so we decided to change the name to Alina's.
Maritza, when did you enter the story of the Alina's transition?
Well, I joined my husband when he decided to open Alina's in South Deerfield. And by the grace of God, we have a really great friend who helped us fund Alina's, Chris Quadro. You know, we started with very little money. We were also very fortunate that Martin had great followers. People were very used to his cooking, and we were fortunate, and we got people to come to South Deerfield. And then when this place became available, we also have to thank Greenfield Savings Bank for giving us the opportunity, you know, because two immigrants trying to get into a huge building, they gave us the opportunity and took a chance on us. And now we are here 15 years later, so.
Which is a huge success story for restaurants. The shelf life of restaurants is usually very sadly, painfully short. 15 years is, you know, that's a legacy at this point.
Already, that I feel like anything past 10 makes you an institution.
Oh, for sure.
How does the restaurant here differ from what you had very briefly in South Deerfield?
I think it's almost the same. We just more people in the kitchen.
A bigger kitchen in general? Because like you can't have more people in the kitchen when the kitchen is the same size.
Oh, no, for sure. It's a bigger kitchen.
It's a recipe for disaster. I did not mean to do that.
But you did. Restaurant pun.
I'm not proud.
So it's clear to me as I hear this story, and you're talking, Maritza, about the loyal customers that have followed you here from South Deerfield. It's certainly because they like you too, but it's definitely got to be because they love the food that you're cooking too. And I know this is an empty table in front of us, but I'm wondering if you could describe some of what's on the menu right now that we might be able to purchase if we actually came when you were open, like polite customers.
And since we're with CISA, especially the local stuff.
Yeah. So I think right now, since it's summer and we are so blessed to have so many local farms here in town, so we have a dish called risotto primavera. So we use all the ingredients, all the vegetables, I should say, available right now, from squash, from sweet corn. When the asparagus are in season, we use a lot of asparagus. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm working a lot with sweet corn. I love corn. So it's easy for me to work with that.
Yeah. You mentioned that you were 2 immigrants that have come here and had this now 15-year legacy restaurant that you're at the helm of. Tell us your story of coming to this country, each of you. Martin?
So I came to America in 1994.
From?
El Salvador. I came to visit my brothers and sisters in Amherst. I used to play soccer back home in El Salvador, and I came here with a broken arm.
Which is fine for soccer.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to use it anyway.
Yeah. So I came here, and then I came to visit, and then I decided to stay. I fall in love with, cooking. I don't know if you know, but my first job was working for Damiano Di Paola.
Which is
Mezzaluna.
who owned this.
And
Mezzaluna, yeah.
So he used to own Cremelinas and Mezzaluna in Northampton. So that was my first job. And then I said, well, I'm going to stay 2 years, make some money, and go back home. And 30 years later, I'm still here.
Wow. Because you got not a break in the arm, but a break. Like somebody gave you a shot to start working and then continued along with you that whole time, right? And supported your dream, really, I guess.
For sure. I mean, I got to say, Damien was huge part of where we are right now because he believed in me. Without him in the beginning of this, it would have been probably almost impossible. Mm-hmm. I learned so much from him.
Back in the days, we had people that wanted to come to this country and really work, no matter what they had to do. Like Martin, he used to wash dishes, used to be a baker. I mean, his goal in this country was to make money. Back then, the immigration was, hungry to make that money and not afraid of hard work.
What's your story? What brought you to this country?
Well, my father, he was an American, so we came to this country.
From where?
Peru.
Uh-huh. Does any of your Peruvian background or your El Salvadorian background make its way onto the menu at all?
Not at all.
My immigrant people's food stays on the menu.
I was going to say, are you constantly disappointed by our lack of variety in potatoes, like most other Peruvians I know?
Oh my God! Right? The Peruvians have so many potatoes. Martin's tried to bring some Peruvian potatoes here, or to do little specials. But I mean, you can't beat Hadley. Or where do you get your potatoes from?
We get this potato from this farm in Hadley. During the winter time, I try to get some potatoes from Peru. But during the summers, we try to get everything from the area.
Yeah.
But you're right. Peru has like crazy.
It's like 70 or 80 varieties of potatoes.
At least.
Do you have a signature dish here at Alina's on Route 9 in Hadley, Martin? Something that you feel like people come back for time and time again?
Well, I think we have so many dishes on the menu that people come back for. I don't think that we have one specific dish. That's a good question for Maritza too, since she's the one who's on the floor every night.
I think that the crazy Alfredo,
What makes it crazy?
all the combinations that he throws into that particular dish, and I think other people may make it, but I think that Martin's sauces, he has mastered those, and you can tell, when you have a really great crazy Alfredo.
Yeah, I know that you're using local produce, but do you get to work directly with any of the farmers who are giving you vegetables and things?
We do, yes. We buy a lot from my friend who has a farm right here in East Street, and we buy a lot from One Sick Farm, or customers too. They grow tomatoes and stuff like that, so they bring stuff to me like squash and summer, and then we kind of like swap sometimes.
That's fun. With your customers? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it's fun.
You get to be like, this is what I did with your vegetables. Enjoy.
What's going on in your kitchen today? What are you excited to cook?
Well, right now I have some chicken stock going in there, that big pot that you saw in there. That's chicken stock. We make our own stocks. And I think one of the really good things that we do in this kitchen is sauces. And to make good sauce, you need good stocks.
And sauces are hard. Being good at sauces is a skill. Not everybody's put in charge of sauces. When you get to sauces, it's like a real big thing of prestige.
Yeah, I watched The Bear.
I'm sorry, it got too hot.
Why?
It didn't cool down.
Why?
But it was my fault.
Go. People in restaurants shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, I can't watch it either. It gives me such being on the line PTSD, and I'm watching their stagiaire do things, and I'm like, I can't.
Can you handle this? Is it too much for you? Answer me.
I can handle it, chef.
You mentioned how much this restaurant is a family endeavor. Can you talk a little bit more about how much of your family is involved with the restaurant?
We have a lot of family that work here. In the kitchen, we have Martin, my husband, my brother. Then we also have my daughter, Alina, who helps out here at the restaurant. You know, she'll bar back, she'll wait tables, she'll host. We have my niece, too, who does food running. It's a family affair for sure.
Did you have to hire your daughter because the restaurant is named after her?
No, you know, that's a good point. We're so blessed to have our daughter because, you know, it's been hard with staffing. You know, I have to say, though, that people that work for us, they're the best. They give over 120%. They're hardworking people who take pride in what they do. But with the shortage of staff, I don't think my daughter had a chance to say.
We're going to keep the restaurant named after you, but...
You have to work.
We have siblings. We can rename this anytime.
You know, especially with COVID. I mean, it was just like the three of us. You know, we did takeout, and the community. I can't emphasize how blessed we are to have their support.
It's a small family because we are not that big, but we have people that have been working with us for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I know Emmanuel since in 1996. So we have people that have been working with us for 15 years since the day one.
That's my brother.
Yeah, so, but I mean, just the fact that now we are able to work together since the day one, I think that says something.
With also the November ballot question number 5. It's about changing the wages for our servers. So what's going to happen is people vote yes on question 5. It's going to be hard on a lot of small businesses, restaurants, right? It's not so much about raising the wages of servers, but if servers do get tips, they have to share amongst all personnel, including kitchen, and that changes the structure of the restaurant. You know, it's really scary because payroll, obviously, it's a high expense in the business. It's really scary what's going to happen. I mean, they have it in California right now, you know, and it's not working in California. If things change, what's going to happen with us, you know? As the economy is, the food prices are higher, and, you know, we all work hard for our money, right? And when we go out to eat, we want to just forget about stuff, you know, and just have a nice dinner and enjoy that. But we are very worried about question number 5 from, you know, the new November ballot question.
Restaurants are like a lot of other small businesses, and certainly a lot of other entrepreneurial food businesses, right? That you're operating on very thin profit margins. Food is getting more expensive, and you just have so much food moving in and out and expenses all the time. There's a lot of cash flowing in a lot of different directions, and it can be tight in a way that I think a lot of other people don't understand if you're running a different type of business.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, to give you an example, right? We just bought striped bass yesterday, $16 a pound, and that's with bone and skins. Our food cost is high, and we can't bring it to the way it should be 22% or 20%. And then we have to charge New York prices. We can't do that here in Hadley. So our food cost is already high. Payroll, like Maritza said, is one of the most expensive things in the restaurant business. It will be hard if that goes through. But it is what it is, you know.
We have to take it day by day,
Day by
right?
day, you know, we figured it out.
I had the privilege of interviewing both of you for a newspaper article about 3.5 years ago now, and that was kind of the first winter that we're going through with the deep COVID lockdowns, and I know the dining rooms are at about 25% capacity. And my job was to ask you about local food on the menu and just sort of how things were going, but it became obvious pretty quickly that the story of Alina's was really the story of people, both the people that work for you and the loyal people that have come to eat here for years, and that just shone through to me. I know there was a lot of fun anecdotes you shared about people that maybe couldn't come in during COVID, but still were trying to financially support you so that you guys could make it through that tough time and still be here. It was kind of mind-boggling for me to understand just how much this place means to people. And I think the word that you used in that interview, Martine, was home. Just that like coming back here after learning to cook here and working here as it was Carmelina's, getting the chance to buy this building and come back as Alina's was like coming home.
Yeah.
And I know that for a lot of people eating here feels like coming home too.
I mean, everything just happened without me saying this place is going to be mine one day.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. And it was like coming back home. I never worked in any other kitchen besides my kitchen. I don't know too many chefs up there that they can say that.
Yeah.
We're with Martine and Maritza at Alina's on Route 9 in Hadley, which Martine and Maritza have been running now for 15 years after an incredible immigration story and sort of like the quote-unquote American dream of starting as a dishwasher essentially and working your way up to the chef owner. One thing that I think is interesting about your restaurant that a lot of restaurants in the area don't seem to have is the piano that I'm looking at right over there. When do we hear piano music here, and who are your piano players or player?
Yes, we do have Ed, who has been with us, and he plays like every Tuesday. He alternates on Fridays and Saturdays. And then we have a rotation of different pianists, so you can hear not only jazz music, but different types of music. You know, he's also been with us for quite some time, and he loves it in here. You know, he'll come to your table and ask, is there a special song that you want to hear tonight?
Aww.
You know, there was this people that came in from out of town, and they had no reservations, so I was able to find them a little table. They came and sat, and the piano Ed was playing, and the woman said it was her anniversary, and she didn't even ask Ed to play that song, but it was their anniversary song, and she was just in tears, you know. And so when she left, she was also in tears, and you know, there were older folks, and she said, you know, this is the best experience she had. The service was great, the food was so delicious, and just to have that piano player play their song, it was just, she felt it in her heart. She was so thrilled that she stopped by.
Thanks again to Martine and Maritza at Alina's on Route 9 in Hadley. We found out while we were leaving that Martine does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I know, and now he's your murder ballet bestie.
I know. I thought we might throw down right there.
And
We
you
both
had
got really excited about
a martial arts connection in common, too.
Yeah, my instructor and he and Martine would do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu together previously. But yeah, that's for another show.
For another time and another place. Have you been watching a lot of the Olympic stuff?
Yes.
Have you been able to see?
Let's take a break and talk about that. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. I'm Monty Belmonte.
And I am Clea Smith, and everybody's got Olympic fever, including all of the memes on my feeds.
Yeah, what are your favorite ones so far?
I mean, there's just been so many good ones. Every time that Snoop Dogg comes up, it just makes me incredibly happy. And actually, like, somebody had some really good insight about that and mentioned that, like, you know what, I realized the other day that part of my joy in seeing Snoop Dogg and Flava Flav at the Olympics is because there's so few opportunities that we have to see middle-aged black men just existing in public and being happy.
Having the best time and making the Olympics seem so much fun.
Yes.
I'm in love with the Turkish shooter guy who just showed up with no equipment. You see all these people with all this crazy headgear and eye lenses and things, and guy from Turkey shows up, wins silver medal. It's like James Bond of Turkey.
Seriously?
There is a Northampton connection, too. Apart from the Worcester connection we talked about with McGovern,
right.
A coach from Northampton is coaching, I believe, the South Sudan basketball team.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we keep it local.
And then also, I got to see the haka because the New Zealand women's rugby team won gold. And anytime that you have the opportunity to see the haka, it is the best. It is one of the most beautiful things that humans have ever created.
I know. Simultaneously, whenever I watch it, I'm in awe, am terrified, and am filled with joy at the same time.
Seriously.
I think that's kind of the point of it.
It is, in fact, very much.
You want to do a quick Bands on Brewster plug?
Yeah, our friend of the show, Sierra Fergale, is playing Bands on Brewster this evening. So if you want to hit both concerts, both see Los Gaiteros in Easthampton and see her in Northampton, you can do so. Bands on Brewster starts at 6 p.m. this evening in Northampton.
We are desperately trying to find out more information about the Poop Museum that is coming to the Forbes Library on Saturday and the Pecumtuck Homeland Festival in Montague this weekend, so that may very well be on the show.
Indeed.
But if not, we know we're making a trip to Berkshire Mountain Distillers to hear about the stills coming to life with founder and head distiller Chris Weld. Keeping the contents of those stills vibrant with distiller Will Wynn.
And we will sample the wares as well, plus some words of Olympic proportions with word nerd Emily Brewster, including the use of the word love in tennis and beyond.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I am Khalees Smith. We will see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.